Hey, Siri, you okay? Oh, the nightmare again, huh?
I nodded, trembling as Dad held me. I miss Mom so much.
Me too, sweetheart. Every day.
Hey, I'm Siri. Life hasn't been the same since that day, but I've got something super cool to show. First, smash that like button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Ever since Mom passed away when I was 5, it's just been me and Dad. We survived, but we both have scars, some emotional and some physical. Speaking of physical scars, check this out. This arm? Totally fake. It's a high-tech prosthetic. Not quite Bucky Barnes Avengers cool, but...
Not Bucky cool? Excuse me, young lady, but can Bucky's arm blow dry his hair? I don't think so.
It's a super soldier arm, Dad. I don't think that during a fight he'd need to blow dry his hair. But thanks to my tech genius dad, who just interrupted my story.
Hey, I heard that.
I know! It looks and moves like the real deal. My dad homeschooled me until I was 8, and every year he upgraded this arm. I'm 16 now and no one at school knows. It's my little secret. Long sleeves? Always, even during track, which I'm pretty good at. Let's be real, kids at school can be brutal. Speaking of school, let me tell you how I met my best friend, Annie. She was new and I walked into the bathroom to see some girls dumping her things onto the ground. What exactly do you girls think you're doing? The mean girls looked me up and down and turned up their noses at me. What we're doing is none of your business. Actually, Annie here is my friend. Right, Annie? Annie nodded so fast I thought her head might fall off. And that makes this totally my business. Let's just say that after I stepped into the bathroom, things got messy. And by the time Annie and I left the bathroom, those bullies learned what happens when you mess with a girl who has a high-tech prosthetic arm. After the incident, Annie and I became inseparable. From snack raids to telling each other about our secret crushes. Nash is like a chocolate fountain. Smooth, irresistible, and I just want to lick him. Like that's not weird and creepy at all, Siri. Oh, hush. Didn't you say that Troy's like the cafeteria's mystery meat? Spicy, unpredictable, and bad for you? What can I say? I love a bad boy. Annie was a tech geek, just like my dad. When I introduced them, they hit it off immediately, and they spent a lot of time together in his lab. Was I jealous? No way. I know Dad loves me, and I'm glad he had another techie to chat with, and that too, my bestie. But the best times were when the three of us had game night on a Friday. One Friday, we decided to order pizza and play Flower Face. You know, the game where you ask a person a question and if they don't answer or give the wrong answer, their faces get pushed into a plate of flour? That game was super hilarious. Questions?
The hip bone is connected to the...
Spine bone?
Wrong.
By the time the doorbell rang with our pizza, Dad, Annie, and I looked like ghosts. Since Dad had just asked Annie a question, I went to get the door. Y'all, I opened the door, and there stood Nash with our pizza in his hand, and I stood there looking like a freaking wide-eyed powdered donut.
Siri?
I slammed the door. Annie? Nash is the one delivering the pizza. Annie, being the best friend that she was, collected the pizza from Nash. Siri and I are experimenting with a new skincare routine. Flower's blowing up on social media right now. You should totally try it. Annie paid and closed the door. And if that wasn't mortifying enough, guess who I got paired with for track warm-ups? Yup, Nash. Darn you, universe. Between last night's disaster and the way his baby eyes were staring at me now, my body went into full panic mode. My chest tightened, my lungs forgot how to work, my vision blurred, and I staggered.
Siri, are you okay?
I blacked out. When I came to, the entire team plus coach was hovering over me, and Nash was volunteering to drop me home.
You gave us quite a scare. Take the rest of practice off and we'll see you tomorrow.
After Nash helped me to his car, I sat in the car as stiff as a board as he drove me home. Then he told me something that made me even stiffer, if it was even possible.
Annie told me you like me.
Annie told him what?
And I like you too.
No freaking way!
I'd love to get to know you more.
By the time Nash pulled up in front of my house, my emotions had run a full 4x4 relay. The baton was passed from terror to shock to joy and then to anger.
I'll see you tomorrow.
I wanted to say something, but first I needed to have a word with Annie. Annie, you told Nash I like him? What's the big deal? He likes you too. If it were up to you, he'd never know how you feel. Just doing my bestie duty. Bye. That little wench hung up before I could say another word. I sighed and flopped onto my bed. I really did want to get to know Nash. He already saw me at my worst, so hanging out at my best should be a breeze, right? The next day at school, I hadn't seen Nash. My stomach twisted with disappointment. Maybe he'd changed his mind or he didn't actually like me. At lunch, I pushed my food around my tray as Annie headed to the bathroom. Then someone slid into the seat next to me.
Hey,
Oh my god, he's here! I looked up and froze. Nash's face was covered in flour.
someone told me about this new flower skin routine. I must say it really does make my skin feel cool.
I burst out laughing. You're positively glowing. With the awkwardness gone between us, we started talking. And to my surprise, Nash and I totally clicked. We argued over whether the Black Panther movies were overrated. They were, and agreed that ketchup should never ever go on pizza. By the time Annie came back, I barely noticed her sly grin. Ah, young love. You guys look so cute together. Over the next few weeks, with Annie's enthusiastic blessing, Nash and I started going out almost every night. He even joined us for Friday game nights.
Left foot on red.
And if you're wondering whether I told him about my prosthetic, I didn't. I was terrified. What if he saw me differently? What if he stopped liking me altogether? I knew I couldn't keep it a secret forever, but for now, it could wait. I had bigger problems. I noticed Annie had started pulling away for some reason. Every time I tried to make plans, she found an excuse to back out and started ignoring me. Now, what kind of best friend would I be if I stopped trying? And more importantly, why was she avoiding me? I cornered her one day after school and confronted her. Why do you keep blowing me off? Was it something I did? Relax, Siri. Annie refused to look at me, so no, I did not relax. I've just been busy. Too busy for your best friend? Just then, she stiffened as her phone buzzed. Something was definitely up. Look, I have to take this. With that, Annie walked away. I was shocked, but I wasn't about to give up that easily. I'd figure out what was going on one way or another. Over the next few days, I followed Annie. She got calls that always left her pale, and she slipped into alleys exchanging envelopes with shady-looking people. What the heck is going on? One afternoon, after a woman handed her an envelope and left, I stepped out of the shadows. She jumped out of her skin when she saw me. Siri! Fancy meeting you here. Cut the crap, Annie. What's going on? I've been following you for days, so don't even try to hide anything. Annie's eyes widened and became misty as her shoulders slumped. Mom lost her job and she's been baking goods and selling. The people that you see me meeting, they're her clients. I collect the money. Annie, and why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want your pity. Things are really bad right now. A tear rolled down Annie's cheek and I pulled her into a hug. But that's when you need friends the most, Annie, when things are bad. But as I held her, something nagged at me. She explained the reasons for the meetings, but not the phone calls. Annie, what about the calls? Are you guys owing someone? Annie pulled away, fear flashed in her eyes. We are, but we're dealing with it. But Annie, Siri, please, I've gotta go. That night, I went for a walk with Nash and spilled everything about Annie.
I think you should respect her wishes and...
Nash stopped mid-sentence, his hand tightening around mine. I froze. Standing right in front of us was Annie and 3 guys. 3 armed guys. Annie, what's going on? My heart was pounding loudly in my ears. She didn't answer. One of the guys did.
This the girl?
He looked me over. Annie nodded, her face pale.
Good. Go home. Your uncle's waiting for you.
Annie! As she bolted down the street, I tried to run after her, but Nash held me back.
Let her go, Siri. She's not in trouble. We are. Neither of you are in trouble. Yet.
My stomach dropped.
What do you want?
The guy smirked.
Her arm. What?
Just then the man stepped towards us menacingly.
Are you gonna give it to me or do I take it myself?
Oh god, this was not how Nash was supposed to find out about my prosthetic. But what choice did I have? Fine, I'll give you my arm. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the guy grabbed my arm. With one sharp tug, my prosthetic popped off. I heard a loud thud next to me and looked down to find Nash on the ground. Wait, he fainted? Seriously? The guys bolted down the street, and I crouched next to Nash, shaking his shoulder. Nash, wake up! We gotta move! Before he could stir, a pack of teenagers appeared around the corner, laughing and hurling water balloons.
Incoming!
One balloon hit me square on my now missing arm, soaking my shirt in bright red liquid. You've got to be kidding me! The splash and the sound of my voice woke Nash, who blinked at me, then at my red-soaked shirt, then at my missing arm.
Ah!
He fainted again. I groaned, fumbling for my phone. Annie was going to explain everything later, but first, I needed backup. Dad, I need you. As soon as I explained to Dad what happened and hung up, he pulled up. That was quick. By then, fainting Nash was finally awake. We hopped into the car and he pressed himself into the door. I don't blame him though. He knows I'm a one-handed freak now. I turned to Dad to take my mind off Nash. How did Annie know about my arm?
Probably found information about it in the lab. I did some digging on her. She's Dr. Robinson's niece.
Your weird colleague who wears his hair like Don King?
That's the one. He's her only living relative.
I felt like my heart had been ripped out and stomped on. Annie had been using me all along.
After I drop you kids home, I'm gonna retrieve your arm.
You know where it is?
There's a tracking chip in the arm.
You've got to be kidding me. What else did you stick in it? A listening device? A camera? Dad's silence said it all as we pulled up to Nash's house. Nash left without a glance at me, and my heart sank. Dad turned to me as he drove off.
When I get back, we'll talk.
After everything I went through today, Dad thought talking could fix things? As soon as Dad pulled up to our house, I hopped out of the car and stormed inside. I collapsed onto my bed, burying my face in the pillow as I cried myself to sleep. For 2 days, I stayed buried under my covers. Nash had been blowing up my phone with calls and texts, but I couldn't stand to read or hear his rejection, so I turned off my phone. By the third night, Nash was knocking on the front door.
Siri, if you don't open this door, I'm gonna tell your neighbors you eat candy corn. Oh, and remember that time we went to the mall and you came out of the bathroom with toilet paper stuck to the back of your skirt? And then...
Was he insane? None of those things were true, but that's how rumors start. Ew, candy corn? I flung open the door, grabbed Nash, and yanked him inside. Dude, are you insane?
You ghosted me, so I figured you wanted to see me in person, so ta-da, here I am.
Nash stood there grinning like an idiot. After you found out about my arm, I thought you were upset and didn't want to see me again.
No, I blacked twice. Total wimp move. Not exactly a great look for a guy who wanted to ask you to be his girlfriend.
My heart stopped. You want me to be your girlfriend? You're not ashamed of me?
Never.
He took my hand in his.
So, Siri, will you be my girlfriend?
I couldn't believe it. He still wanted me? My eyes welled with tears. Yes.
So, babe.
Butterflies warmed my belly. I could get accustomed to this.
Is there any update from your dad?
Oh, Nash, I haven't heard Dad's car in 3 days. What if something happened to him?
Babe, breathe. He went for the arm, right? Let's check there. Besides his phone, where would he set up the tracking system?
Follow me. I led Nash to Dad's lab and opened up his laptop. Of course, it was locked. I typed frantically, my birthday, Mom's, Dad's, nothing.
Let me try.
You can hack this? Nash smirked.
Watch me.
3 minutes later, he pulled up the tracker.
He's at a warehouse east of the city. What now?
We go get him. Give me 5 minutes. I returned with one of my outdated arms attached, dressed head to toe in black with cargo pants, and I stuffed gadgets from Dad's lab into them. Okay, let's go. I'll call the police on the way. As Nash sped to the warehouse, my nerves rattled. The thought of losing Dad terrified me. 15 minutes later, Nash and I parked a little bit away from the warehouse and snuck towards it. There was no sign of the police. I ran to the side of the building, my heart pounding, Nash close behind. I needed to take out the 2 guards at the entrance. Take a deep breath, now.
What do you...
I held my breath as I tossed 2 sleep grenades at the feet of the guards. Within seconds, the guards were snoring and I slipped into the warehouse, expecting to see Nash right behind me, but he wasn't. Where is he? Peeking out the door, my eyes zeroed in on Nash's stupid sneakers sticking out from the side of the building. I ran to him. Oh, he was asleep and drooling. Are you kidding me? I placed a few pieces of wood to cover him and left. I needed to get to Dad. I darted through the warehouse using stun guns, nerve gas, and smoke bombs to ambush the guards, praying that all the SWAT episodes I watched would pay off. Oh, and not getting caught would be great too. Finally, I reached the 3rd floor and found someone sitting on the floor in a room. His hands and legs were tied and he was blindfolded. He looked super worried as he struggled with the ropes. I sprinted over to him and ripped off the cloth covering his eyes and yanked the gag from his mouth. Are you okay? My fingers fumbled with the knots on the rope.
Yes, but we need to get out of here before Dr. Robinson returns.
As the last of Dad's ropes dropped to the floor, a shadow filled the doorway.
Siri, how delightful of you to join our little soiree.
Dad sprung to his feet and pushed me behind him protectively as Dr. Robinson entered the room.
You already have the arm. Let us leave. That won't be happening. Robinson, why are you doing this? Despite my years in the field, you got the awards, the promotions, the recognition, while I, your senior, am ignored, overlooked, invisible. But that arm is a masterpiece, and with a few adjustments, my name will finally go down in history.
I stared at him, blinking. Wait, all of this because you're jealous? Bro, you're worse than a middle school drama queen. Dr. Robinson's face twisted into rage and he lunged at me. But I was ready for him. I tossed the last of Dad's gadget at his feet. Instant freeze. Shock was plastered on Dr. Robinson's as his body began to freeze. Then, out of nowhere, Nash jumped onto Dr. Robinson's back, his legs wrapped around his waist and his arms around his chest. The gadget's effects froze them both in place. Just then, police sirens were heard, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Don't worry, Nash. The cavalry has arrived. They'll get you out. Soon, the police stormed the building and took statements from Dad and me as they towed Mr. Robinson and Nash away to get thawed. My arm was returned, and an officer dropped Dad and me home. Dad, are you okay?
Yes, honey. And I'm sorry for putting the listening device and the camera in your arm. It was way overboard.
Not the tracking device?
I won't apologize for trying to keep you safe.
I understand. I love you, Dad.
I love you too, Siri.
There was a knock on the door. I opened it to see Annie standing there looking all nervous with a serious-looking woman standing next to her. I could feel the anger rising in me. What are you doing here? My uncle told me that if I didn't get close to you and get the information from your dad's lab, he'd ship me off to some boarding school in Russia, and I slammed the door in her face just as the tears began to fall. I felt Dad wrap his arm around me, and I cried for the friend I lost.
How about we watch some of those sappy teen videos on YouTube? Obsession Diary. That always cheers you up.
It's Confession Diary, and I'd love that. Dad ordered the pizza as we watched the videos. When the doorbell rang, Dad went to answer it.
Siri, the pizza's here and a delivery for you.
I spun around as Dad went to the kitchen with the pizza. Nash!
I asked you to be my girlfriend, but I kind of forgot to seal the deal.
He pulled me into a kiss, and time froze. When we finally pulled away, Nash and I were smiling.
Do you think your dad has any gadgets that could help me in dangerous situations? I really don't want to go down in history as the world's worst boyfriend for not being able to protect my girl.
I'll see what Dad could do.